Hey guys, it's Drexel with Black Hollywood Live's Political Culture. On today's show, we've got actor and writer Dylan Ramsey from the movie Extinction. We're talking all about the FBI and what was in Huma Abedin's computer with Anthony Weiner. And we're going to talk briefly about the Dakota Access Pipeline and the developments from there, so stay tuned.
You're tuned into Black Hollywood Live, Political Culture.
Hey guys, welcome to Black Hollywood Live's Political Culture. I'm your host, Drexel Hurd. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Drexel Hurd.
Hey everyone, Elena here. You can follow me on all social platforms at hey_Delay.
What's up, guys? I'm Michael Rippey. You can catch me on social media and on the shows at Mike Rips.
And in the studio today, actor and writer and probably producer, Mr. Dylan Ramsey. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the studio. It's your first time here.
It is. Thank you guys for having me.
Of
great.
course.
Absolutely.
And of course, this is my first time with Michael on the panel as well. He's been waiting for this day probably since May.
But you guys have seen him before.
But you guys have had him before, and now I get him, which I've been excited about.
This is exciting.
This is very exciting. Excited to have everybody in the studio. Welcome to the show. We've got two more shows left. We've got this week, today, and we've got next week, election night. So next week we will be doing a joint election night special with Trump versus Hillary on AfterBuzz TV. So we'll talk about that a little later on in the show. But first, we're going to talk to Mr. Ramsey about his story. Dylan Ramsey has produced and wrote and acted in a movie about a struggling single mother who's forced to choose between morality and the law when she finds out that a gentle farmhand Adam is more than what he seems while protecting her 6-year-old daughter Mary and her ailing grandmother Rose. Take a look at this.
I love my sweet little Mimi.
She's playing with Rusty. Adam's with her.
He's such a good man. Having Adam around is really paying off.
Thank you for taking care of her.
So you can go to extinctionthemovie.com for the rest of the trailer. So Dylan, tell us a little bit about the movie, the concept, how it came about.
So basically what happened was in January of this year when Donald Trump started talking about databasing, cataloging all Muslims and Muslim Americans in America, I had a hard time sleeping. And as Islamophobia is running rampant in the world today, I was worried for my friends, my family, and I just said, okay, I got to sit down and do what artists do, is create. And called my friend Aram Praveen Bilal, the director, and gave her an idea, saying, I have this idea about the last Muslim on earth. What do you think? And she says, that's great. So we sat down, had a conversation, and then a week later, the script was born.
Nice.
And a couple of months later, we went to camera.
So how long did it take you to kind of write that? Like, was it
6 hours?
6 hours? Was it? That's good. Some people it take. You know me, I would have been there. I'd have been like, because I edit while I write.
this.
Like I don't know if you guys do it, but I
Yeah.
edit everything while I'm writing, and it takes me forever just to get out a paragraph.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the way I write is I envision it. I see it in my head. It becomes so real that it just has to come out on paper.
So did you take this from a personal experience? You know, some people write from personal experience. A lot of writers do that. Was this from personal experience? Was it from friends' experiences? Were you just taking what Donald Trump, that inspiration from that, and just kind of created this story? How did that happen?
It's like, following Black Lives Matter, following, after 9/11, following all those kind of movements and how, police kind of affect people of color in certain ways. I mean, when I moved to America, I wouldn't tell anyone I was Muslim from 2005 to 2011. I was kind of afraid about that.
Did you come straight here to Los Angeles?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
From Toronto, and so there's a lot of my mom in the title character Jane. A lot of her there about a woman trying to find her strength. With Adam, it's just I really want to make Adam a very international person. So he could be Muslim, or he could also be black or a female or LGBTQ. Anybody who's discriminated against, he represents that character. And that's kind of how I pulled all those things personal and not personal. And I love science fiction, so I added that element of the not too distant future, 60 years from now, what could possibly be a reality.
So what kind of research did you have to do to kind of create that, to kind of keep it realistic? But now you've got this future element added to it.
Right.
Did you have to do any sort of research to kind of balance that out, or were you just kind of coming up with that.
Yeah.
And you know, some people, they have that kind of like what I think I want or the world to look like, or what I think the world is going to look like, or what I think the past should have been like. And now that
I'm a huge Gene Roddenberry fan, Star Trek.
I love Star
Yeah,
Trek. You
love
better
it,
live
you know,
long and prosper.
exactly.
I love Star Trek Beyond.
And for me, I think like when you look at real life and then you look at cinema, how different it is. 2001: Space Odyssey, only certain aspects of it become real now. Star Trek, the cell phones, the tricorders, right? We have all those little things that come up. So I think for me, I just want to keep it really simple. Dystopian future, something about losing our rights. Every empire in the past has risen to a certain apex and then just crumbles. And so that's kind of like showing America in a situation where human rights is dissolved. So now that empire should crumble, where you also take something really important, the middle class, and wipe it out. And that was really important for the film. There's no middle class since we're the ones who are like paying all the taxes and everything.
That is true. So let's talk about the process of getting this movie up and running. So you've got the cast. You got Sally Kirkland, Nicole Steinwell, Matthew St. Patrick. How did they come on board? Did you do a casting call, or was it like, hey, I know these people in Los Angeles? Because that's how LA works.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I really want you for this movie, and you should come on.
It's actually, I worked with Sally in 2011 on a film called The Way Shower. We never had scenes together. I was in the Morocco unit, so she was in the Utah unit. And so I always kept her in mind for something I could write. Matthew St. Patrick and I were friends from way back. We met in 2012 at a charity function. And he's been a great human being. So I always thought of Matthew as one of the principal people in the show, and Sally's one of the principal people in the show. And Nicole Steinwedel, her and I had the same class. We came out from the same master class together here in LA. So these are three people that I know very well, and with Aram's blessing, we were just rocking and rolling.
So what were some challenges that you had during production? Like, this is a very sensitive topic right now. So how did, from a producing standpoint, how did you balance that out? Because you've got a lot of people who have a lot of strong opinions about what's happening. How did you overcome those challenges?
Everybody that gravitated to the project was pro the project, pro human rights. We didn't really have very many right-wing conservatives involved in it.
You didn't in LA? Oh my gosh, I would have never thought.
Exactly. So being in California, being in Los Angeles made it very simple, and
Right.
everyone who's read the script really loved it and wanted to come on board and contribute to it. So it was pretty simple. And Aram and Joy Gaines, who's our other producer, Aram's the director and producer, and Joy Gaines is the other producer. They just worked magic, and the three of us just made it happen. So it's pretty wild.
Did you guys do funding? Was this like crowdfunded? Was this like?
I contributed a certain amount, and then we raised the rest through private investors.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said when you first came here, 2005 to 2011, you didn't want anyone to know that you were Islamic. What changed in 2011, or what was it for you?
I do believe in 2011, I think it was when the Boston Marathon bombing happened. And I just saw that. And all I felt was I was a bartender at the time, and I was just watching it happen on the news, and people were pro, like, let's kill the Muslims, let's get rid of them, let's they're a problem. And if I don't speak up, I'm part of the problem. I need to speak up, So, you look at certain people. I'm not saying I'm like MLK or Malcolm X, but those are people who have gone out of their way, to do the right thing for their people. We need more people like that, And so I just said, I can't be quiet anymore. Let people do what they have to do. I just got to voice my opinion.
So would your hope be that people that see your movie, they come away with it and then speak up for themselves, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. The movie's about, unity, about togetherness, coexistence. It's like my mom's Jewish, my dad's Muslim. They made peace. So could the world. It's just a matter of figuring out if we can get the people away from the governments who want to make money from wars.
So, in terms of Donald Trump, how do you? Okay, so hypothetical, Donald Trump wins next week. Heaven forbid. What do you think happens to the Muslim community after November 8th? Let me rephrase that. After January 20th.
Right. I think it would behoove every single Muslim in America and around the world to step up and really voice who we really are. I don't believe there's any religion out there that professes and pushes hate or to make people subordinate to others. So I think if Muslims stepped up and just said, look, we're contributing members to society, positive citizens, and they are doing it right now. There's so many out there helping the FBI, talking to people, watching within their communities and helping out. I think that's the step in the right direction. And as more people voice their identities and what we are and what we do, I think it'll take away the mystery that's shrouded, whether it's Hollywood or the media, about our people, and let them know that, yeah, we're good people too.
So then my question to you is, so Donald Trump talks about, or not Donald Trump, but President Obama, I know Donald Trump has spoken about it, talks about the Muslim community. You talk about stepping up in terms of helping out in terms of the Malcolm X, the Martin Luther King way. But how do you get the community to step up when they know there are bad people within the community? How do they, because it just doesn't happen as often. The Florida, the Orlando Pulse shooter's dad kind of, tipped the FBI, not in that particular situation, but before that, you got the Boston, you got different pockets where that's happening. But you also see overseas where you've got places like Syria and Iran, where they're harboring terror. How does the community combat that view of harboring, of knowing and not saying something on the other side?
I think they got to go back to the text itself, the Quran, right, and realize that it's our duty to be peaceful, loving, and giving people. That's what every single religious text suggests. And I think harboring a possible or known criminal, right, is against the religion, period. There is no justification in that. And the religion of those terrorists, those fanatics, is not our religion. They've perverted the idea. A lot of those people are kind of like ones who are victims of a bombing or some sort of war. They've lost their family, loved ones, parents, and they're lost. And then comes along this fanatical sheikh, right, who will then prey upon the victim and say, hey, listen, you want to get revenge? So do we. This is the right way. This is what it says. You'll get these 72 versions. You'll die, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't exist anywhere. These are just perverted ideas from twisted truths of what the Quran was once saying.
Do you practice?
I do, yeah.
In terms of the movie, so movie's out.
Yep.
What is the plan? What's the next plan?
Well, I mean, there's been talks about turning into either a feature or into a TV series, but this stuff takes time.
Which would you prefer?
I always thought of a movie, but the series actually makes sense.
You could build a futuristic.
Yeah.
I could, that'd be great.
It's actually, there's a studio up in Toronto who I've been liaising with a lot, and then there's a couple of friends out here who want to connect me to certain players as well, to kind of I think what I would like to ideally see is a show with a Muslim lead played by an Arab that's a good guy. We
yes.
need that.
I was trying to, as you were saying, I was trying to think of all the TV shows that are active right now that do not have Muslim, that do not have that type
LL
of
Cool J
character.
plays a good guy who happens to be
But
Muslim
you're
as
going
well.
to say,
NCSLA.
but you're going to say he plays a good Muslim guy. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
So tell everybody again where they can view the movie, view the trailer, get more information about what.
Absolutely. Hey guys, check out extinctionthemovie.com. There you'll have access to the social media where we'll be releasing all the information. It's hitting the festivals right now, and as it comes out, you'll be able to see it.
And we will tweet all of that information out after the show. So thank you for that. Let's talk about
What's been
what's
happening?
happening. You know how I feel about this election. I'm ready for it to be over. And I'm sure you guys are too.
Absolutely.
What's with the drama that's been happening?
No
this
more
week?
drama. Listen, Friday, I was at a vendor. I was with a vendor, and I got this AP Breaking Mobile. And I looked down, and it's like FBI, blah, 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 reopening the case. And I'm like, literally, the oxygen in the room from me, because I can suck out some oxygen. Literally, I was like, what is happening right now? And I'm pretty sure that that's how the Clinton campaign was, because they didn't have a clue what was happening up in the air when they were on the plane. So FBI comes out last week with, hey, we're looking at these, this server, or these emails. What was your first thought? Everybody. Just fucking everybody.
I was surprised, actually. I was surprised that this story came out on Friday, that yet again, they were looking into her emails. Now, I know that it was a big thing, and I know that it was something that people wouldn't let go. But for something new to come up and for it to be back into the media a week before elections, I was like, wow, they're really trying hard here.
My first take was, and my problem with it is, I don't think anything new did come up. And what we've learned so far is very vague. There wasn't any information added. They just said there's more emails, we're going to look into it.
Right, and James Comey sent, and we were putting up the photo of his letter, but James Comey put out a letter, 3-paragraph. It literally is probably like, you write a paragraph, and paragraph's supposed to be like 5 sentences, but each paragraph is more like 3 sentences. Or 2 sentences, and I was like, oh, okay, that's it. Like, actually, the letterhead of all who he sent it to was longer than the paragraphs that he wrote.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
He's in a tough spot.
But is he though? Because he doesn't seem to care at all.
No, here's the tough spot he's in though. He's worried that if he doesn't say something now, after the fact, it's going to look like a cover-up. But if he's got information, he's got to share it and not just be vague about it and throw a wrench into the election, because it does seem quite one-sided when he's bringing up a topic that's kind of been brought up, and he doesn't present any new information to the American people.
That's my thing. My thing is, this came out, and it's so one-sided. If there is something in the emails that we need to know about, then let us know it. Don't give us half of the story and then paint this bad picture.
Right, because the headline suggests that there's more information, but we haven't been given any more information. They just found more emails, but that doesn't mean anything, really.
What did you think?
Yeah, but the emails didn't have any information in them.
Well,
the emails never had any
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Agreed. So...
Well, and here, let me just throw this out here. Here's what I have a big problem with, and I say this probably every show that I have to talk about these emails about, is that when people say Hillary Clinton's emails, they're not actually Hillary Clinton's emails.
Sure.
Actually, if you actually read a Hillary Clinton email, she's just an old white woman asking for some tea and some skim milk in her tea. Like, she's not like...
Are you emailing with her?
I am.
Let's check your emails.
Hillary and I, we go way back. No, but you know what I mean? Like, she is... So they say these are Hillary Clinton's emails, and that is what people think. They think that she's the
They're
one...
her assistant emails and Anthony Weiner emails.
And, right.
I mean, it's not even the candidate.
And I think that what people forget in this election is that campaign operatives, and we talk about, we saw the emails from John Podesta coming out in WikiLeaks. We see the emails coming out, Jennifer Palmieri and her, her flippant opinion about the Catholic vote. We see campaign emails from the Clinton campaign about Bernie Sanders. But I think people generally forget that this is a campaign, and that campaign operatives are, by and large, responsible for protecting and promoting their candidate in whatever way possible. And I say that because people forget how dirty the Sanders campaign was in terms of Tad Devine and what was the other guy's name? I forgot his name because I've forgotten all about him because I tried to forget about him. Who was their campaign manager? Jeff Weaver. Jeff Weaver was the most... He was my least favorite person this entire campaign. And that's saying something because I just did not like Jeff Weaver. So, but if you looked at Jeff Weaver's emails, and Bernie Sanders said the same thing. He actually said, well, if you looked at my emails, you'd probably find some things that were not very exciting about Hillary Clinton either.
I think part of it, though, is also on the American people to recognize that they can make their own decision and not just, there's an emails, and what does that mean? Because just because there's emails, that doesn't mean that they're bad emails, good emails. And so it's on the American public to decipher what's going on and to be able to see through the clutter. And I understand, Director Comey, we don't like to see that. But I think in the long run, it's better that it came out now as opposed to after the fact, because the cover-up idea would be really bad.
Running rampant this
also,
whole
I think
election.
it's interesting to note two things that we learned since then, that Director Comey had no interest in doing the opposite side when they wanted to kind of connect Donald Trump and the Republicans to Russia.
Right.
And he didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Because he said it was going to influence the election.
Exactly. So that's a little bit weird, but it also interesting to note how the White House came out and said that they thought that that Comey was a legitimate guy and that they weren't going to add anything.
But at the end of the day, what is the White House going to say? Oh, no, Director Comey, you know what? That guy, FBI, he's not a great guy. They're never going to say that. And I say that because I talk about it all the time on this show, which is how has, once again, the White House, and you know how much I love the president, has stayed clean through everything that has happened to Hillary Clinton as if Hillary Clinton herself was running what was happening in the White House. Policy-wise, Hillary Clinton, Libya, Syria, Benghazi, blah blah blah. You're like Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and they forget that the top of the ticket is a Barack Obama.
I think it's the principle though, because he may not have gotten what she's received, but he has gotten, some kind of whooping from the American people. He's gotten something. Just because it's on her right now doesn't mean that he hasn't gotten it. However, I think when it comes to Hillary and the email scandal, it's almost like a mom who has bad toddlers going around. When your child is acting up in a grocery store, you're not like, oh, that child is, terrible. You're like, that child is a representation of their parents. So even though those emails didn't come from
campaign,
even though they didn't come from her, it's almost like she's the parent and she's gracefully taken, all of the criticism that's come from the children misbehaving.
Right. And I think when it comes down to campaign operatives, I've worked on campaigns before. I've worked behind the scenes on a lot of stuff before. There's some things that the boss just doesn't need to know. And I think this is what's happening right now is that I'm sure Hillary Clinton probably didn't have a lot of clue of what was happening behind the scenes because you don't want to disappoint Hillary Clinton. Actually, there was an article that talked about the moments leading up to, or the moments after the AP broke the news. And, like I said, Hillary Clinton's LA Times had the article. The Clinton campaign didn't have Wi-Fi in the air. They had zero clue what was happening. Hillary Clinton was actually doing a photo shoot with Annie Leibovitz on the plane. The whole conversation around her, without her knowing, was, when do we tell Hillary Clinton? When do we tell the candidate that this is happening? They waited probably like 30 minutes before telling Hillary Clinton what was actually happening. And I think that's an internal battle for campaign operatives, which is how much is too much to tell the candidate without freaking them out? I mean,
to be completely honest, I think that Hillary has been through enough that there's nothing that can freak her out at this point, especially this campaign cycle has been the most, torturous, disgusting, way out of left field type of campaign, mudslinging ever. So I don't think there's something that can really rattle her at this point.
Which it didn't. Which in the LA Times article they said that she didn't even blink an eye.
Donald Trump said in a debate that he was going to put her in jail if he won. So I mean that shows you how low it is. Sure. So the point is, I think she's been in public office long enough. I think she knows how the game works, and I think it maybe rattles her for a second, but I think in the long run, I think that she, was okay. And I think really what you're seeing though overall, that the Republican Party and their choice of using Donald Trump as their candidate, it's come to the fact they don't have much. They're not telling the American people what they're going to do. They're just trying to tell you why you shouldn't vote for Hillary.
And that's a good point that you bring up, because today Donald Trump was out campaigning. He's been doing like these last-minute policy speeches where you're like, shouldn't you have been talking about that, I don't know,
months ago?
I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But he talked about healthcare today, and he used the same Republican line, repeal and replace Obamacare after day one, blah, blah, blah. But once again, what we've seen is that Republicans don't have anything to replace the Affordable Care Act with. They just talk about repealing. So what's going to happen to the millions of Americans out there who have, who are going to lose their health care, and they have no response for that? I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I kind of want to know if you guys feel like the director of the FBI broke the law a little bit when it comes to...
I don't believe he broke the law because there's no law, but he did break policy.
Okay.
There is a policy that says, I think 30 days or so, you shouldn't talk about anything that could breach the election or hurt it. And he did that. And that's what I'm more interested in. Why did he do that?
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring up that policy point, because I do remember a certain department policy that everybody thought should have been followed. I don't know. State Department? I know they had a policy. I don't think it was a law. I think it was a policy that was broken, and then nobody's talking. The Republicans aren't talking about the FBI breaking policy on that. That's just shocking to me. So anyway, how is it going to affect? That's just at this point, I was debating on something. I was talking to somebody on Facebook, and I just kind of gave up after a while. I'm just like, I don't even know what to say anymore. We're a week out from election days next Tuesday, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say, because everything that's being thrown out, you're like, but I can counter that with something else on the other side, and you did not bat an eye when it came to that. But it is affecting down the ballot, the latest polls, the polls have shown that a little bit. So Hillary Clinton went in the week with like +6 or something like that,
she's
which
plus
is
five.
+5, +6, whatever. I think she's down +2, 2.2. She's 2.2, 2 points ahead in the national polling right now. There was an ABC Washington Post poll out today that had Donald Trump up +1. A lot of these tracking polls, though, are including people who've already voted. So I don't think that the tracking polls at this point are going to be fairly representative of what we're going to see next Tuesday. And we talk about on Trump versus Hillary, and people have talked about just pundits around the news, and they say that there's more of a chance of Hillary Clinton winning by a landslide than Donald Trump winning by a small margin. And I think that's generally what's going to happen. I think even if Evan McMullin won Utah, the opportunity for Hillary Clinton to win, a couple of other states, she could probably lose Florida, still win North Carolina, still win Virginia, possibly win one of the Rust Belt states.
Wrong.
I can hate you.
No, but can I just
Trump
say,
Jr. over here.
If
Did you say I
anyway,
looked at you? At first I was like, huh?
if any way that it's going to affect it, would just be, I think, the down ballot candidates. That's where I think there's.
And
an
I think it's
effect.
going to hurt the down ballot
It
candidates.
might.
So, yeah.
We still have a week left.
Yeah, well, I don't even know. In a week left, we talk about some things that will come out in terms of Donald Trump this week. I don't know. He's got two trials that are coming up in November and December. He's got this big tax thing that came out in Newsweek, and nobody's talking. About
Have you read that story?
I have it
bad
saved
story.
on my Facebook. I have all these articles
The
saved, so
links, yeah.
these links, and I never go back to them. So fast forward, we talked about if Donald Trump wins, if Hillary Clinton wins, and they win back the Senate, what happens? We all know that Chuck Schumer, senator from New York, will be the Democratic leader he'll be the Democratic leader, whether or not he's in the majority of the minority, whether or not Democrats are in the majority of the minority. But there is a little bit of infighting right now with Dick Durbin from Illinois and Patty Murray from Washington. Do you guys? But it's not a progressive split. It's not like Democrats are fighting because of ideology. Mm-hmm. They're fighting because of seniority. What do you guys think about that?
I think it sucks. Stupid.
I think they're going to figure it out.
They'll sort it out.
Who do you think's gonna win that battle?
Durbin's going to be.
Who do you think Hillary Clinton wants?
Ooh, that's
Because
good.
that is what matters. At the end of the day, the top of the ticket is what matters.
I think they're going to both be satisfied. I think Durbin's going to be second in command, and they'll satisfy Patty with something.
Or do they satisfy Elizabeth Warren with something?
I'm not sure.
Push Patty Murray to the side.
I think they might try to.
They might push her to the side, but I think she's going to get something to set her up for the future.
Maybe.
That's where I think.
I think they're gonna end up pushing her to the side and giving Elizabeth Warren something just because she's already been great, but this year alone,
She's been on fire.
yeah, she's like
on
this
fire.
year,
She's just been the Democrats' version of like an attack dog to go against Donald Trump.
probably like a little pit
I
bull.
don't know how great she's been, to be completely honest.
Well, I think her calling card is obviously the big banks and breaking up the big banks, or just in terms of reform. So I think Elizabeth Warren will be, whether or not, and I say this about Bernie Sanders, I say this about Elizabeth Warren. Whoever is chair of banking, Senate Banking Committee, it's either going to be one of those two. I think that Elizabeth Warren has the better background in terms of banking, so she'll take banking, and then Bernie might take budget. Like that just makes more sense to me.
I feel like he has this futuristic approach to it, though.
I think Bernie's going to be in a different role.
In terms of what?
I think he's going to be someone in a high role for.
I think
Hillary's
chairman. I
cabinet.
think no. Where would Bernie Sanders fit in the cabinet?
Just think so.
If Bernie Sanders,
if-
but
at
here's the
this
thing:
point
Bernie
in the last
Bernie
election-
Sanders doesn't want to work for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but they can work together, just like
Right.
Hillary and Barack Obama were
I don't
never
think
going
it's
to be
the same.
together.
But I don't think that's the same. I don't think that Bernie Sanders possesses the. I don't think that he wants to be second fiddle to the Hillary Clinton policy. I think he wants to be legislating policy and pushing policy out. Okay. I don't think that if you're in a cabinet position, you're driving the policy of the president. You're not creating policy.
Yeah, but what happens if they come to a conclusion that they find the policy that Bernie likes and it works with Hillary and he gets to drive that part of the agenda?
But how many cabinet officials get to make policy? Kathleen Sebelius did not have a thing to do with healthcare. Yet she was Health and Human Services.
I agree with you that Bernie Sanders wants to be the driver. However, I do think that if they find the right position for him, he will settle to a certain extent. Now, it might be a little fuss about it, and he may not be happy for it, but he may be pushing a different kind of agenda.
I also think that Bernie already misses the spotlight and would like to be in a high-profile role.
He said on
still.
Bill Maher the other night. He said I would rather be running for president. Obviously.
So I think that there's a role that they're going to figure out, work him in, and that will help with Hillary's approval ratings with the American public. So I think I think Hillary has learned. She's seen what's happened with the Obama and her, back and forth, and I think she's old enough and mature enough and has enough wisdom to make it work.
Here's the thing I think I'm going to say about Bernie's.
Happy belated birthday to her.
Happy belated birthday to Hillary Clinton. Please let November 8th be a birthday present. But I think that here's my pitch about Bernie Sanders as chairman of the budget committee. He gets to drive the budget. He gets to put the money where he wants it to go. That's where Bernie Sanders needs to be. You put the money into education, goes to education. You put the money into healthcare, goes to healthcare. That's what the chairman should be doing. He doesn't need to be like sitting in the Department of Labor trying to crunch numbers, trying to figure out why unemployment's so high. Yeah. That's not his background either. He does not have the background to be a cabinet official, but he does have the enthusiasm to chair a committee that people can watch on TV.
I love the way that you just worded that segment. Like you just tried to give him the power while still taking it away.
But you know what? I don't. But it goes.
You really did.
I want Bernie Sanders to be in the right role. I just don't think playing second fiddle to Hillary Clinton in the White House is the right role, because Tim Kaine will be Tim Kaine will be her person when it comes to the legislative branch. And I don't think that Bernie Sanders, to tuck Bernie on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue somewhere in one of the departments, I mean, he would they would forget about. They would put him in a cabinet.
He won't get tucked.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you're in a cabinet position, you get tucked away. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I agree with you. I think him as budgets is perfect, because then he gets to help out with what he actually envisioned as he was running for presidency.
What do you think his priorities should be?
Budgets. I mean,
I mean in terms of
agreed. Yeah. I mean, I'm from Canada, where
where healthcare is thriving.
Yeah.
Can we get Justin Trudeau?
Oh, that'd be great.
Down here, I think it would be great.
Yeah.
I watched his what holiday was it the other day? It was Thanksgiving in Canada.
No, that's what
I watch all of his little announcements. They're like 15, 20 seconds or whatever. And so I just watch them.
It was recently Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Do you speak French?
I do not. Arabic and Polish. I speak French.
You speak French? Or you think you speak French?
No.
I watch Beauty and the Beast, and I think I speak French all the time. I just make stuff up what I learned from Beauty and the Beast because it was all said in French. So, speaking of places that are that we don't normally talk about, North Dakota.
What's happened in North Dakota? You guys are probably wondering, why are all your Facebook friends checking in to the standing Indian preservation? What's happening there? Well, apparently they're joining in on this protest to kind of disguise other protesters from police investigation who are, I guess, trying to track down the people who are protesting. So what's happening? If you live in the North Dakota, South Dakota area or not, you might see just a lot of people trying to show support because the government is trying to build a pipeline that goes through 4 states, interrupting private burial, I guess, prayer sites and burial sites and just very sacred grounds for the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. I believe I said that name right. The Sioux tribe. So they're trying to peacefully protest and stop the final phases of construction by moving their camps into the pathway and, just holding them off. The problem with that became police met them in riot uniform and kind of, it's been described that the peaceful protesters were met with some type of violence as far as tasers and pepper spray and shotguns that were filled with bean bags. And about 140 people got arrested, and a woman was injured. And there are rumors that there was a protester who fired 3 shots or whatever the case may be. So that's like the back and forth of it all. Apparently, the pipeline that is being built is supposed to help the U.S. for imported oil. It's supposed to help us become better, but it's not only going through the Missouri River. It's just going to cause a lot of chaos for those who actually live on those grounds. Now, my question to you guys would be, Native Americans are already a little forgot about in the U.S. So with this happening, do you think that because it's going to limit the imported oil that we have to get, like we'll have our own access, do you think that this is a good thing, the pipeline that they're trying to build? Or do you think that we should stand with the Native Americans and protest and stop them from interrupting their burial sites?
I think we should stand with them. I mean, like, First Amendment, it's, if we're targeting the Native Americans today, it'll be us tomorrow. Just a matter of time, and big businesses just throwing money at everything and getting what they want. And we have enough oil here to sustain ourselves, so the imported oil stuff is just a secondary thing.
I think it's important for everyone to look into the situation a little bit more and understand what's going on. The Sioux Indians have been, and most Native Americans have been prejudiced against, and land has been taken over time. And this is just another account of this of these Sioux Indians having issues with their land and getting more and more taken when they had made deals with the U.S. government in the past, and now we're going back on them and taking more and more from them. So certainly, I think that this is a poor decision by the government, and they need to let the protesters continue to protest, but also stop the area where they're trying to do more of the pipeline.
Now, this is a $3.7 billion project.
That's right.
And they started protesting back in April. So it's also been rumored that, some of the Native Americans who live in the North Dakota area have signed some type of voluntary agreement giving them permission to do construction. Now, that's the rumor that's going on from the Midwest Alliance for Infrastructure.
Well, there's certain areas that the pipeline that they've already created, and then there's certain parts that are caught up they're not allowed to build on, but it's the other parts that they're still allowed to build on that they're protesting and trying to get stopped. And so it's interesting because this whole Facebook check-in thing, they think that the police is searching out who's protesting by Facebook check-ins. That's why everyone is just checking in, even though Facebook has come out and said, whether it's true or not, that they can't figure that they're not giving that information being tracked. But nonetheless, I think it's important that the U.S. government uphold its agreements from the past and not just go back on them.
Yeah, that's interesting because this is the second pipeline that the Obama administration has kind of had to deal with. We had Keystone, and now we have this Dakota pipeline. Yeah. We have been as a country trying to figure out how to be less dependent on foreign oil, and yet we keep running into this resistance when we're trying to be less dependent, or to use our relationship with Canada and go on the way down. Now, North Dakota has a Republican governor, so it's not surprising that North Dakota has authorized this pipeline through areas that they may have just kind of been like, they're just Native American, let's just kind of go through the pipeline. That does not surprise me with the Republicans. No offense to all my Republican friends. However, that does not surprise me with Republican leadership. But are pipelines bad? Now, environmentalists will say pipelines are bad. We shouldn't be laying down pipelines. But pipelines create jobs. Pipelines, like I said, keep us independent, and we can move our own oil around. How do you move oil safely without building something? And we all know the Obama, now whether, I don't know when this agreement was kind of signed, but if it was signed under this Obama administration, we know where the Obama administration stood.
Well, interestingly enough, Barack Obama visited the Dakota Access Pipeline in 2014. So he's been quite silent on this topic lately.
Until he had to not be. But something tells me that the Obama administration halted it, because they only halted it until after the election.
Maybe. But so with the pipeline, you brought up the point that having a pipeline creates jobs and so much more. Do we just ignore the fact that it's an environmental hazard?
I think that the State Department, whether or not it's under Clinton State Department or a Kerry State Department, probably has looked into the environmental. I think this is less about the environmental impact and more about the impact on the people of Dakota.
Or
They
corporate greed.
They also are mentioning though that it is having the pipeline is making it safer to transport the oil as opposed to above ground. Into
Right, and so when people talk about this corporate greed, I'm like, who else is going to build a pipeline? North Dakota, the state is not going to build a pipeline. They just don't have the money for it. They should be putting that money into other resources anyway. So it's always going to be some corporate company coming in having to build something for a state. It's never going to be the state. It's never going to be the federal government either.
What would you suggest the solution be with the issue at hand?
I think they need to redraw where that pipeline is going to go. I think they need to kind of boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. And we have enough technology in this world to be able to go, okay, how do we just get around that? How do we just get around, cut around that whole thing?
Yes.
They get 3D. I don't know. I'm not an environmentalist. I don't know.
I think that's correct. I think they gotta, even if they spend more money to make it
Move
outside of the land that is not ours, that they need to do that.
Because like I said, the argument is not an environmental argument.
Well, then the question becomes also, why not alternative energy sources or renewable energy sources, something greener?
I don't disagree. I am pretty sure that somebody has brought that up. I think when it comes to using natural resources, that's something that the federal government takes pride in doing.
Depends on the administration.
It depends on the administration. But I also think that what you've seen from the Sanders campaign, what you've seen from the Clinton campaign, what you've seen from Democrats across the board, and particularly the Obama administration, it is this renewed focus on using renewable energy. And so hopefully they will come to a better solution. And hopefully I'm wrong about the Obama administration after the election, and they'll find a better alternative to that. But anyway, that is what we have today. Next week, like I said, we're going to be right here. We're going to do our regular show at 6 o'clock, but it'll be an election special. Very eventful. We'll be doing 3 hours next week. Myself, Christian Blatt, Elena, Chelsea Galicia, some of your favorite after buzzers. Dylan, thank you for coming on our show today.
Thank you so
Where
much.
can everybody find you on Twitter?
At Dylan_Ramsey.
And give them that website again.
ExtinctionTheMovie.com. Please get out and vote.
Please get out and vote next week. You can find me at Drexel Hurd on Twitter and Instagram.
You can follow me on all social platforms at hey_itslay.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, Mike. Thank you for coming.
You can catch me on social media at Mike Rips and all over other AfterBuzz shows.
And we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.